Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with episode 8 of my 22 shots of appreciation. And of course, when I mean appreciation, I mean I appreciate the 22 shots of Moods and Horror and JP and Moods, and of course all that Jeremy did. And I just gotta do some appreciating here. So today's episode, of course, number 8 is The Beyond 1981. Lucio Fulci, maybe his masterpiece of horror filmmaking. I have to huge shout out of appreciation for this one because, you know, when it comes to Beyond, I can't tell you how many years I went without this film in my collection. And as a kid, I remember it being a VHS rental. I remember, having seen it and being impacted by it. And for some reason, it just never ended up. It just never ended up in my collection. And when I did go after it or look for it, I could never find the right edition. Never found the right one. And I'll be honest, when I got that real urge, that real craving. Sometimes I even, scanned across YouTube to see if I could find an uploaded, cut of it, just so I could get it out of my system. But then March 24th, 2015 came, and that was episode 47. I think that was Dark Hall episode. And in the news, or not the news, but the DVD Blu-ray release, it was announced that Grindhouse was breaking out with their, I think it has to be one of the best. Now, I've never seen, other than the Arrow release of it, other than it sitting in Moods' hand when he reviewed it as part of his 52 horrific weeks of 1981. I think that was episode 44. I saw it in his hands, but I don't know the content. I don't know, the layout of it. But when episode 47 rolled around, and and this might not have been the first time. Of course, I'm sure y'all know by now. I thought my birthday was rolling up in April, and I thought, man, if I am ever going to get this movie in my collection, now this is the time. And so in the DVD Blu-ray release, of course, I think Moods made the announcement that Grindhouse's edition of The Beyond, with the soundtrack, of course, 2 discs plus the soundtrack, glow in the dark work. The soundtrack, of course, beautiful, and of course the book inside. Just an awesome release of the film. Now, with The Beyond, aside from my shout out, because if it wasn't for episode 47, if it wasn't for hearing about that DVD Blu-ray release news segment, I would have never got on the ball and went ahead and got this, as a birthday present, whatnot. But later on in episode 62, of course, they highlight Lucio Fulci's Gates of Hell trilogy, City of the Living Dead, or of course it was released here as The Gates of Hell, of course The Beyond, and of course House by the Cemetery. Episode 62, they review this pretty in depth. So if you want to hear a good review, you can go to Moods' 52 Horrific Week of 1981, and you can, of course, I think it's episode 44, and that was back maybe 2013 that he did that. And then, of course, episode 62, they review this in depth. And so if you want a good review, some good thoughts, him and JP going over the entire trilogy. And also, Beyond the Realms, can't think of his name, but he uploaded a video, a year now ago sometime. He actually went out to the location in Louisiana, and that video is somewhere in his video list on his YouTube channel, Beyond the Realms. So if you go there and go digging for it, you could actually see where he went and visited the location for it, and it's a pretty sweet video. But one thing I did want to say, about The Beyond, um, is the impact of H.P. Lovecraft on this film. Now, last night I was going through some of the extras and promotional material and whatnot, and I should have actually found it and put it up here, but I actually found a poster that said H.P. Lovecraft's The Beyond. It's the only time I've ever seen his name connected directly with this. Indirectly, of course. I mean, I think it's probably closest to H.P. Lovecraft's work, Pickman's Model. And Pickman's Model, I think, was back in the 20s, 27. Lovecraft, it basically, in fact, one of my Lovecraft works, just absolutely full of stuff. Anyways, basically, a narrator tells a story about how he's telling his buddy how back in the day he knew this guy named Pickman, and who took him down into the basement of his place where he lived to show him. He was a painter, famous painter, but he was getting kicked out of everywhere because the stuff he was painting was way too realistic, too dark, too evil, it was just too much. And so Thurber, I think his name is, so he's relating this story to Eliot. And as he's relating it, he's telling the story how he goes down into the basement of this guy's place, and what he ends up seeing is a painting that frightens the just frightens him nearly to death. In fact, in the act of something happens, and he ends up something distracts Pickman for a moment. He actually walks out of the room, and then there's gunshots. We never know for sure what's outside. We're told maybe rats or whatever. Thurber actually had reached out. There was a picture hanging near the painting, and he just assumed it was background that Pickman was using. Turns out to be something totally different, and it's exactly why, or the reason why, he drops Pickman and as a buddy, and never again. And then eventually, somewhere down the road, Pickman just disappears, and we're not sure why, and we're never told why. He just disappears. But the reason I want to focus on this, because after listening to the guys talk about this, there's a line in here right in the middle of the story. They talk about these paintings, Pickman's works, and right here he just picks somebody. He says, "I guess you saw enough." I'm sorry. "Remember too that I just about recovered my wind and gotten used to those frightful pictures which turned colonial New England into a kind of annex of hell." A kind of annex of hell. And I just want to point that out because Lovecraft, man, Fulci must have just been, he must have just soaked him up. When you watch The Beyond, when you watch City, when you watch House by the Cemetery, if you're deep into Lovecraft, he maybe more than anyone tapped in to what Lovecraft was, and nobody does that on film. And we can find examples of Lovecraft. Alien, The Thing. There are The Mist is great. There are examples of Lovecraftian works out there. But man, Fulci, man, he tapped in a way that, and maybe, I don't know, the guys talk about on the podcast when they review it in depth, and what seems to be just erraticness of scene to scene to scene, and really sometimes feel like there's no real ebb and flow to it. There is continuity. The continuity is H.P. Lovecraft, and I think Fulci found a way, unlike most people, he found a way to tap in and show Lovecraft in a way that nobody could, or at least by, they put his name on it, H.P. Lovecraft's, and I'm sorry, I'm going to step on toes here, The Reanimator. I'm sorry, read the short story. Yeah, I really wish you would go back to that short story and redo that film. Nothing really against that film. It was, The Reanimator is a cult classic, I know, I realize it. I own it, it's in my collection. But man, the short story is absolutely phenomenally unreal. There is so much to Lovecraft, and it very rarely ever sees the screen. The Beyond is a perfect I think, illustration of, you know, it's funny. The story of Pickman's Model, it's said that may have been a criticism, or not a criticism, I'm sorry, but may have been a way of Lovecraft, through Thurber, the narrator, pointing out certain things about Edgar Allan Poe that were the reasons why H.P. Lovecraft, I mean, he just absolutely, he adored Edgar Allan Poe, and he understood that there were certain things that Edgar Allan Poe understood about horror that no one understood about horror. I almost think in the same way, Fulci is doing the same thing with The Beyond, maybe with City of the Living Dead as well. Fulci is commenting in that maybe it's the character Shrek, but he is commenting more than anything that Lovecraft knew horror. He understood it. He knew it in ways that no one did. And maybe this is Fulci's greatest nod to H.P. Lovecraft, is to say that. And I mean, the music, the score, I mean, there are scenes that are just, I mean, when Joe the plumber's down in the basement, man. And that's another thing in Pickman's Model, as the narrator says, because of his experience with Pickman, he'll never go into a cellar again. So there's this idea of cellars, and dude, the cellar in this movie, man, is, I mean, JP says it right, man, when he said, I would never even go in there. I mean, it's the atmosphere, the sets, I mean, it is amazing. It is amazing. And this is an amazing film. In 1981, I am so glad they decided not to put H.P. Lovecraft on top of it, his name on top of it. Somehow I think that might have diminished everything. Because when his name is there, it's like you suddenly want to tear it up and start saying all the reasons why it's not Lovecraft. But when his name's absent, but you know Lovecraft, now suddenly you start to see it and realize, whoa, this guy, Fulci, he understood something about this guy that few do. And so, anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there real quick. I hope this didn't run that long. Didn't mean for it to be a review, but this is a phenomenal movie. And if you do not own this at all, I highly suggest that you get the Grindhouse edition. It is absolutely fantastic. And if you haven't, read Pickman's Model by H.P. Lovecraft and watch the film. And the beautiful thing is it's not like Fulci just looked at a story and said, okay, I want to do it. He looked at a story and it sparked something inside, man, and something his mind just went. And so you could almost read Lovecraft's story and sort of get maybe a little bit of insight into what Fulci was trying to get across without ruining the movie, because you're not ruining it by reading the story. I think what you're really doing is, in a weird way, maybe in an offbeat weird way, reading a commentary on what Fulci was attempting to do, and so therefore maybe amplifying the film even more to a much greater degree. But anyways, I love H.P. Lovecraft, so I just had to throw that out there. But again, episode 47, of course, and the news, are the DVD Blu-ray release, of course, back on March 24th, 2015 is when they broke the news that Grindhouse was releasing The Beyond. And here it is, of course, we got it. And of course, episode 62 is where you can go hear a really in-depth analysis or review or just discussion of all three of the Gates of Hell. In fact, I've even heard it mentioned before that this is Fulci's Lovecraft trilogy. I mean, there's a lot of the Gates of Hell trilogy, and I mean, I might have heard of another sort of thing he put on there, but I've even heard that this is his Lovecraft trilogy. And so I want to just throw that out there to maybe get some things working, I guess. And if Fulci really did have an appreciation for Lovecraft, the same as Lovecraft had for Edgar Allan Poe, then we need to start recognizing that in his work, I think. And maybe we'll get a greater appreciation for both. So anyways, episode 8 of my 22 Shots of Appreciation is VHS 82 apostrophe. please hit the like button if you like. Drop a comment if you'd like. And thank you again for all those who have subbed and continue to sub. Thank you very, very, very much. And again, this is my part of my 22 Shots of Appreciation series. And I'll leave you with Go Bills.
One of these days, I'm going to punch with you. This is